The challenge was to find a solution that was easy to support. It should also be accessible on mobile devices, connect with other college systems, and be able to document images, video, text, and audio files in a competency-based environment for students to demonstrate their learning. The solution that immediately came to mind for me was Brightspace. I've been working with Brightspace for a number of years, designing blended, online, multimode delivery courses. Sometimes they're continuous intake, competency-based. There's so many different things that you can do with Brightspace. This demo course was created just for PLAR. It may look a little different from your Brightspace shells because they're all customizable, especially here along the tabs. The idea is to have a course in Brightspace that has all of the program outcomes or competencies linked here in the back in the competency home. So if an applicant wants to see how many PLAR credits they can have towards their, for example, their diploma in early childhood education, they can be registered in the PLAR course, and it has all of the diploma requirements built in. If we take a closer look at that competency framework in the back, you can see that it can be set up as competencies, learning outcomes, objectives. Consistently writing your curriculum design will work. The important thing to remember is that all of the outcomes and competencies for a certain credential, for example, a diploma or certificate, are loaded in and attached to the one PLAR course. A student wanting a PLAR credit would be enrolled in the course and have access to all of the criteria that needs to be demonstrated and credited toward the credential of choice. Now let's go over to the PLAR course and have a look around.
Hello, I thought I'd do a quick recording so that you could see a quick overview of the ACA's PLAR demonstration. So this is the landing page, of course, and you'll see it a little different than Brightspace that you're used to because we have the badging added in. We also have, and it's called awards at the top, and the e-portfolio. This is also has the competencies added in the back end of this system, so you can see all of the competencies added in the back that everything is mapped to, including evaluations and assessments. So if we go into the course content page, this is where a student would go in wanting to see what they're eligible for PLAR, for early childhood education. This is the overview. Let's say they want to get started. And they'll see that early childhood education has 3 levels, a level 1, a level 2, and a level 3 for certification. This formative assessment will ask questions to determine if the person should be starting in level 1, level 2, or level 3, and then it will customize all of these different competencies down the side. So if somebody only has 2 years of experience, they'll probably be starting in level 1 based on the questions that they've answered. Somebody who may already have their level 1 and has been in the field for about 4 or 5 years will be started at a level 2 and also have the accessibility to the level 3. So they would start at level 2 and down, where the first example, their competencies would be level 1 only. So that way it kind of provides a personalized and customized approach so people don't get overwhelmed. The second thing you'll see is that might be a little different is when you go into a module, there's some badging that's in place. You're also able to achieve badges by uploading demonstrations of outcomes. So create and modify a program plan. A student can see the evaluation, which is linked to the competency in the back end. So when they are graded as being successfully demonstrated, they will then receive a badge and this competency in their system and in their e-portfolio. There's the rubric of how they'll be demonstrated. They need to receive a 60 in order to pass. And all of this can be set up and customized based on the criteria. There's unlimited files that can be uploaded. And students can use videos, images, documents, or any combination of documents to demonstrate their learning. And what I would recommend is then having 2 or 3 samples of how students can go about doing a demonstration, maybe a video and a document. You can also, depending on, of course, the competency, build tests and quizzes that students can also complete in order to demonstrate their competency, and those would be self-evaluated. So the system would evaluate it for you and award competencies and badges. You'll see with this example that the e-portfolio is also enabled. So at the end, a student can reflect, they can attach their demonstrations of learning and place it in their e-portfolio.
Let's have a closer look at badging an e-portfolio. Unique badges can be set up by each college and customized in any way. There's a database to choose from, but they're really easy to build. This competency achieved badge here on the left, I built in about 10 minutes, and that includes uploading it to the system. Badging can be at the competency, outcome, objective, level, or any combination of learning. Badges and demonstrations of learning can be placed in the e-portfolio. E-portfolio showcases the digital demonstrations of learning, and as you've seen, comments and feedback can be added either by the student or linked to competencies by the student or assessor. An e-portfolio can be downloaded into multiple types of files, so when a student leaves the college, they can take all of their demonstrations of learning with them. And the files from the e-portfolio can also be uploaded to CanCred. Let's have a look at the e-portfolio.
Hi folks, this is another quick video from Shelley. This one focusing on the Brightspace e-portfolio. This is the user interface. So I'm right now logged in as a student who currently is using the e-portfolio. And my idea here would be for students to use the e-portfolio to showcase their badging and their PLAR. So when a student coming over from the PLAR side, and after they've demonstrated learning, things have been connected to certain competencies, then they share things to their e-portfolio, and then all of the demonstrations are in one place. So this is the landing page of where students could have their e-portfolio, which is available for export. So the whole portfolio can be bundled up into one zip file, or it could be, each one could be selected, and they could create a portfolio export folder or file based on whichever pieces they wanted to export. So the landing page is divided into 4 different pages. This is the landing page. Then the My Items page, the Explore page, and Sharing Groups page. So on the e-portfolio page, there's a place here for all of the items that a person would have in their portfolio. You look at the different icons. This little cloud here means that it's a reflection. It's something that the student has linked back to their course, and they have written a reflection about it. It's something that they wanted to flag for future reference. A presentation means that they have put together a group of learning for show. Here's another one here. You can just click on this, and this student has put something together on solar energy, which they were very proud of, the World Solar Challenge, and some of the things that they participated in. And also, you can look at the different rewards or awards or badges that they have achieved. And all of these badges, again, get exported, or they can share them individually. Also, there is also icons for them to share images of something that they've done, built, created, or participated in. There's also navigation where they can build a set of images to support learning in some way. So there's lots of different ways that they can put together either a presentation or a document or reflection in order for them to start putting together their demonstrations of learning in their e-portfolio. A new collection is just a way to categorize all of these. So a student can create collections and then put all of their presentations of learning or certain reflections under different categories. Under the My Items, this is where for students it consolidates all their demonstrations of learning in one view so they can see them a little easier. The Explore button consolidates items that have been shared with the participant or the student, either privately or publicly. Let's say there's postings for all PLAR students, for all PLAR students that are in early childhood or information technology, or anything that has been shared with just this particular student. All of that information would be consolidated under this. Then you have sharing groups where information is disseminated across groups. So this again, like the prior example, if you had groups for all PLAR participants or PLAR participants that are only in a certain program like an IT program, this is where information would be disseminated throughout using the portfolio pieces through the sharing groups. Just to go back to the My Items page for a minute, there's also all of the information that's been added to the participant or the student's portfolio also is able to filter. So if you wanted to just look at the individual artifacts, each piece that has been uploaded as an artifact or demonstration of learning and all of the content that goes with it will appear here. If the student wanted to look at their collections, all of the collections that they've put together, all of the presentations that they've put together, and they can also look at all of the reflections that they have included. They can also look at any of the objectives that have been connected to their learning. So if you click on the objectives button, this also, when they did the reflection probably in the course side of Brightspace, the instructor would have linked it with an objective or a competency. And this is showing that they have achieved certain objectives based on the course material, which would have been in the PLAR side of the course. There's also, if you wanted to share pieces or many items within, you can hit the export button. So this is a presentation that he's put together, and it can be either exported using an HTML version, which will give them like somebody a web link so that they can just open it up and it will come up like a web page. Or you can export all of the items into an ePortfolio package, and it will create a zip file with all of the items, and you can do one or you could do many of these, and it will create an export folder for you. So what I like about this is it's really mobile for the student. It's very student-centered. So it's giving the responsibility over to the student to be able to take and manage their demonstrations of learning when they want. And they can easily consolidate all of their learning or pieces of it and export it as they wish to do whatever it is. And this includes any of the badging and micro-credentialing that is on the ePortfolio side. I hope that helps. I'm sure there's so much more that this can do. Remember, I'm not an expert in ePortfolio in any way. I've only been playing with it for a couple of days, but I hope this at least gives us an idea of whether or not it has some options that might support some of the projects that we're working on.
Before we end, let's recap a little on assessment and evaluation. We can create PLAR experiences that are test-based and self-marking. The great thing about using this feature is that these test banks are mobile and can also be used for some of the course content. Feedback to learners can be provided using text, video, or audio. Awards and badges can also be awarded automatically using the competency and awards built into Brightspace. Brightspace also has a Pulse app, and this app will allow students to submit and comment on work and demonstrations using their phone or mobile device. Demonstrations of their learning can be completed using images, video, audio, or documents. Assessment and evaluation for PLAR can also be personalized. Like we saw in the very beginning in the PLAR course, students can have customized experiences. For example, early childhood has 3 levels of certification. If an employee completed the assessment, indicated they had 10 years of experience with level 1, and additional certifications and training, Brightspace will provide them with level 2 and level 3 competencies only. If an employee completed the assessment, indicated they only have 2 years of experience in the infant room and no additional certification or training, Brightspace could provide them with a level 1 competency, thus making the experience personalized and not overwhelming. Before I go, I just wanted to mention all of the innovations. The competency framework, badging, and ePortfolio are all available in the basic package of Brightspace. There are other people that you will need to make the PLAR magic happen. Instructional designers, subject matter experts, and curriculum experts. IDs, or instructional designers, are usually used to build out the frameworks. IDs and subject matter experts are used to build evaluations and course content. And your curriculum folks can map these competencies or outcomes back to your course numbers and found the summary of Brightspace as it relates to PLAR Informative. There are so many layers of details on each of these innovations. The purpose of this presentation was just to give you a broad overview. Then you can take that information back to your college team and determine if you want to take a deeper dive. Thank you so much for taking the time to listen in. Have a great day, and please let me know or anyone at the ACA if you have any questions or concerns.